And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. On our latest episode, everyone, Melinda Barkhouse and I returned together after my vacation to go ahead and catch up on everything Star Trek. A lot of news in Star Trek. Also, as well, Ubisoft, Bridgerton, Season 2 or Season 3, Part 2. Also talking about, of course, Inside Out 2, which is now in theaters and looks like it will become the biggest movie of the year so far to date in 2024, plus also some other good stuff as well. So go ahead and catch what Melinda and I are talking about today at the Pop Culture Cosmos, wherever you get your podcasts. Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Joe Soros said he is on his way. He is the mastermind, the evil mastermind behind Simblade. Simblades with a Y.com. Also, of course, our good friend. Big shout out to Laker Nick, the Nickster, Laker Nick, my friend. He was a great part of what we did tonight on playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break, as those guys and I were there for Game 4, or at least I was there for most of it. I was there till it was just put out of reach by Dallas. Yes, Game 4 of the NBA Finals, which was a runaway victory for the Mavs. Joe said they would win in order to prolong the agony for Monday in Boston. So it looks like they did just that. So we'll see what happens there. But also as well, of course, the great folks behind the Lakerholics crew, Laker Tom and Jamie Sweet. A big shout out to those guys, because Jamie Sweet, L. Rob, Michael, who's based in Hawaii, great job indeed as far as Michael Heinrich, and also as well, of course, Laker Tom, the guy who is quoted at Laker Tom on Twitter, calling JJ Redick a future legacy head coach. And yeah, well, if you have a gripe about that, you can let them know tomorrow at Lakerholics, because the Lakerholics crew will be here on this channel tomorrow at noon Pacific. So go ahead and check that out from there. They're the Lakerholics.com crew, and you can find out what they have to say at Lakerholics.com. Plus also our good friend, John Costa. He did reach out. He is not hiding from you guys at all. Just to let you know, he has actually been very busy as of late, so he will try to step back in. So he will be back soon. Go ahead and check out what he's doing today at Clutch Talk and Lakers Corner, while this guy over here is munching. Also as well, of course, our good friend Stone Hansen. Stone, who shares the love out there for many shows. Occasionally he might share some love for us on his site, where he covers the latest news and notes as far as his prospects that he's interested in the NBA draft. And you can find out what he's doing today at report_court on Twitter. Hoping he'll be returning soon before our mock draft. I got to send out that email starting the planning stages for that tonight. I keep a reminder. I got to keep doing it. I'm going to do it tonight. We'll get done that indeed. Of course, also as well, of course, our good friends, Lakers in 5, Empire Chef TV, and of course, also as well, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Yo! Also as well, Mr. John McCallion, who I hope found our email that I sent out yesterday amusing, as only he would know about, along with the guys on the inside. Go ahead and check out the John McCallion channel today. See all these great channels, but please support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. It is sincerely appreciated. It's greatly needed. And to keep us running, to keep us afloat, anything that you can do to help us out here and on social media is sincerely appreciated. For the Lakers, again, during the midst of all this NBA Finals, JJ Redick, as soon as he put down the headphones at ABC in the middle of Dallas, has to go ahead and American Airlines Arena. He must be flying American Airlines out of Dallas right now to head on over to Southern California, because he meets this weekend with the Lakers before he heads back to Boston for Game 5 of the NBA Finals. And in order to do that, he has to consult with the Lakers. The Lakers, I guess, are really going to get to know each other even more. So we asked the question, Is he the guy that we've been very apprehensive about, Joe, myself, and several others, because he is, well, essentially a podcaster like us. He did play in the league, but he has no coaching experience. Does it still concern us? Doesn't even matter, because it looks like the Lakers have an even better interest than they have been before after they got burned by Dan Hurley. Or is he a future legacy coach and Laker Tom might know something that we don't? Go ahead and talk about that on the show as well. I can already tell you the answers. Probably no. Laker Tom for you. But we'll also talk about what's going on with the NBA draft as far as the Lakers are concerned. Maybe some things and rumors as far as the Lakers this offseason, what they could do. Anyways, good talk tonight. It's Lakers weekend, and we're glad you're with us right here at the Lakers Draft Break. But always here, go ahead and provide his opinion. He's a good man indeed. He got somewhat of the kinks worked out on playback. Somewhat. It is, of course, Joe Soro. And Joe, I will fix your name here in just a second. While you do that, while I do that, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody your concerns once again ad nauseum, because JJ Redick is going to be interviewing with the Lakers this weekend, and whether we like it or not, it's looking more and more like that JJ could be the direction the Lakers team.
Are we going to do this again and then find out that Barney Fife is being looked at?
Exactly. Or the high school coach in Temecula.
Yes. I don't even know who that is. I don't believe anything the media says. I don't care for JJ Redick. We are likely going to be preparing for another coach in 2 years. You know why? Because this team still has to acquire talent. So you can bring 10 JJ Redicks, 10 Dan Hurleys, and a partridge in a pear tree. You still need to equip this team with talent. Are the Lakers ready to do that here in the next few weeks? The Lakers' future for the next 5 years likely is going to be determined within the next 6 weeks. And it could be within the next month. It just depends. Sometimes these signings could take a few weeks when leverage doesn't work and certain players will sign with the Lakers when you thought they would sign with other people. But then if it takes that long to sign and you're a good player, then you're probably not that good of a player. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting process here. If you hire JJ Redick, you're hiring a coach that's never coached in the NBA, not even as an assistant. And other than maybe LeBron James, do you really know that your young guys and Anthony Davis are going to be communicative with him, especially when things go wrong? What happens when they lose 3 in a row in December and JJ Redick goes JJ Redick? Is Anthony Davis going to eat it and go about his way? Or will Austin buy into it if AD doesn't buy into it? Will LeBron start to put out cosmic messages to space when he gets reprimanded in practice? If he will, if he does. It's too many questions in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the answers are likely not good based off of what we know.
So that's the problem and conundrum that we have, everyone, because the fact that, I know a lot of people are encouraged with the JJ Redick. It's so normal now. It's not weird. It's not different, because that's what I see now. Anytime that something like this happens, there are those percentage of individuals, Laker Tom is one of them, that will just see this situation in a different light, no matter how much common sense you try to throw at it. Because again, he has absolutely zero coaching at any respectable level, Joe. That is a great concern to me. I mean, We talk, he gets compared to Pat Riley. Well, Pat Riley was brought up, announcer, right to the bench. Then he became a head coach. There was still a period of progression where he could understand what was going on. This is a modern game, Joe, a 2024. And yes, you can go ahead and be right there on the sidelines all you want to go ahead and talk about the games, but coaching is a different story. It's a 24/7 thing. And I'm not sure, and you'll forgive me and you for having the trepidations that we do, but we're not sure JJ is up to the task because this is unlike anything that he's done before.
Let's talk about Boston again. And we can do that because they are in the finals and they are one game from winning a championship, likely winning the championship. They made a bold move a few years back and acquired Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens had taken Butler to back-to-back NCAA championship games and seemed to have something. More often than not, college basketball coaches don't pan out in the NBA. The only one that I could remember before Brad Stevens was Larry Brown. And even Larry Brown was nicknamed the suitcase because he always had a suitcase ready to go every, 18 months, wherever he was.
Yep.
So Brad Stevens gets hired in, I believe
it was almost like clockwork, Joe, where you could just get, okay, he's getting too itchy. It's about time for him to go.
Right. The Celtics acquire or sign Brad Stevens to coach the Boston Celtics. This is in 2013, and builds a culture there. They didn't win a championship while he was the coach. They got close, but he built a culture. And that's what I was thinking when I heard the Dan Hurley noise. Here's a guy that's just on the low end of 50. He's got enough life experience. He's had enough success. He's got a historic family. This is a guy that the Lakers need to change the culture of where the Lakers have been for the last 12 years. And it hasn't really been good. Even with LeBron James, the Lakers fan base, for those who don't know, they've never really embraced LeBron. They're thankful. We're thankful he helped at least win one championship and putting some relevancy in this thing, right? You have to be smart and understand that. But LeBron is not our guy. He's not our guy. Which is the irony is hilarious because LA is known as a selfish, fake, plastic type place, right? Right?
Yeah.
That's what it's known for. But the reality of that is it's actually not. The main people in that area are not. They want someone who works hard, who's focused on being dominating and gritty, and because that's generally what the personalities of the people in LA are. That's what most people are. Most people are blue collar, low middle class, want to be connected to someone who is an elite person, whether an actor, an athlete, that, yeah, they're rich, yeah, they're famous, but they work like me, so they identify with that person. They don't look at LeBron like that. And LeBron works hard. You can't have the longevity he's had without working hard. But there's this passiveness about him that's not indicative of what the personality of LA is. LA is about being upfront. LA is about telling you what's up. New York's the same way. I think LeBron would have been better off in San Francisco. I think that those guys are more prissy than LA even and New York. So what you would have gotten with Dan Hurley was we would have gotten that gritty guy. you would have gotten a Pat Riley type. That guy, you could say, was like a Pat Riley.
Future legacy coach.
JJ Redick, Pat Riley like? Why? Because he's a good-looking guy? You know that's what it is.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about his looks, okay? The man insulted 2 eras, and I'm going to keep showing this. He disrespected and insulted 2 eras of basketball that helped shape the league. Jerry West, Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson. These guys shaped and started what eventually became what the NBA is. A $76 billion TV contract for the next 7 years, right?
Well, what's the golden rule that you're always supposed to, so your ability to learn whatever vocation that you are, learn and be respective of those who came before you.
And
simple
when you,
rule, Joe. It's a very simple rule.
Yes. So what did he do? So you're telling me if he disrespected the logo, he disrespected an 11-time world champion, disrespected arguably the greatest basketball player of all time in either Kareem, either Wilt, best overall player of all time in Oscar Robertson, and then put a cherry on top of everything by insulting the 90s era of basketball due to its watered downness.
I thought that was
in an
wrong.
era where you had the greatest athlete of the 20th century
playing some of the most physical basketball you'll ever see.
Physical basketball, lifetime. And the majority of the top 75 players are from that era.
It's not the prettiest basketball, Joe, but it's the grittiest basketball.
I thought it was pretty. I never watched 90s basketball and said, oh man, they're not scoring enough. Not once in my life in watching any basketball in the 90s did I sit there and go, man, they're not scoring enough.
Houston, Orlando, Detroit.
I didn't think that in the 90s.
Okay.
We know in the 80s, but see, I wasn't really old enough to understand what was going on.
That's where you and I differ, because I am just old enough to.
I prefer 90s and 2000 basketball when it comes to how hard it is to get to the basket.
Oh no, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying aesthetically, as far as scoring the ball, to me it was prettier in the 80s than in the 90s. But toughness, I will never disrespect those guys, because those guys were tough in the 90s. Absolutely, the toughest basketball I've seen of any era is in those 90s, especially the mid 90s, right there. New York Knicks, just you put it on down the line. Those series were tough.
It was tough because you had guys like Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley, Alonzo Mourning. You had Shaq. You had guys that actually looked like, because if you look at the players in the 80s, they're all string beans. Guys like Jamal Wilkes, guys like Alex English, guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They're all sticks with heads, right?
Yes.
Very, very skinny and lean players. The 90s, the reason why the 90s became football 90s is because these guys started lifting weights. And now they're buffed and tall. Of course, they're going to look tougher. Of course, they're going to play a much tougher game. And it's always going to sound like we're always looking at the past, that was a better era. It's not necessarily what I'm saying. I'm not saying the 90s basketball was better than the players now. It's not actually true. Players right now are more skilled, but that's because that's what the game created for these players. The kids that have been practicing for the last 10 years, 12 years, whether it's an AAU ball, whether it's in travel ball, whether it's just overall facilities having the ability and the time and areas to do this, they've learned how to play a certain way now versus when they played in the 80s. The 80s was more, it's basketball season. We're playing basketball. Now, a lot of these kids are playing year round, right?
Yes.
I mean, there were kids playing AAU ball year round, but right now the medicine's gotten better. The videos are more in depth. The analytics are there. So now you have players that have been around that for however long they have in the last decade. And then you had Steph Curry kind of champion the small guy being a shooter, because that's the only way you can even out the game a little bit, is if you're not 6'7", 6'8", well, you could still be Steph Curry at 6'2", 6'3", if he can shoot the lights out.
True.
Yeah. So skilled wise, but you're never going to convince me that you put Clyde Drexler, Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, you put any of those guys and you move them up in their youth in 2008, 2009, they're all going to be just as good as the players now, if not better. It's still basketball at the end of the day. It's just a different culture now versus when it was then. The culture of the quarterback in the 60s and 70s and 50s is different than it is now. So when people look at the statistics of a Joe Namath, statistics of Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach, they'll look at their stats, people who were born 15 years ago or 20 years ago, like, oh man, how did that guy, whatever. They didn't understand what the rules were then. They didn't understand the culture then. You're telling me Terry Bradshaw, who could throw a ball 80 yards, wouldn't have been a Patrick Mahomes type now, with all the medicine and all the again, analytics and the workouts and money? You telling me he couldn't have been that guy too with his athleticism? Come on, guys. You gotta get realistic here. You can't just, I'll take this guy and put him here. No, you got to understand that the culture you have to put those people in the same culture. So going back to the coaching situation, if you want to talk about Pat Riley was sitting at UConn and you couldn't close the deal. That guy had the potential of being a Pat Riley. JJ Redick, yeah, you're gonna have to flip something there to convince me that guy's gonna be anything close to a good coach.
And we're not saying we disagree with you, Iceland, but his name has been out in the forefront of all these news. And I know, again, you take those with a grain of especially in this case, Joe, a big grain of salt on that. But because the fact that there's not a plethora of candidates, that's why the Dan Hurley situation was so out of left field for all of us, is because the supposed pool of candidates are just that dry. And the fact that the Lakers haven't gotten it done in one thing, but why hasn't Cleveland, who supposedly has James Borrego as his front runner, why haven't they got that job done, finished too? They should be already set in their ways. And
with all due respect to James Borrego, he's not exactly someone who's going to knock your socks off. So
exactly, it's my point. Just the list, it lets you look at, Joe, you and I, when we looked at that list when Ham got fired. And no, we're not saying we should have kept Ham, because on this show we didn't want Ham to stay, but the list, when you looked at it, was, yeah. So that's why the Dan Hurley move, we thought at the time, was good, but you end up lowballing him like that. It's like one person had a good idea. Hey, how about that?
It's a lot of, there's a lot of factors in there.
And another person had a bad idea. Hey, let's give him a low ball offer. And then there you go.
Yeah. You have negotiators like Rob Pelinka. He's a negotiator, right? He's an agent who's being told by his boss, well, this is all we got. If Rob Pelinka knew what he was doing, he'd be like, this guy's not going to accept this. We're not doing this interview. Am I wrong?
No.
That's what I would do. I'd be like, Jeannie, you don't offer this guy 9 digits, he ain't coming here. You telling me that guy doesn't know that? I mean, I'm asking a serious question. This goes for everybody watching. You're telling me that Rob Pelinka, 25 years, 30 years, 10 years, 50, however long he's been a agent in the NBA and a general manager in the NBA, you're telling me that he didn't know that that number was a lowball number before they even offered it? Did he even know that was the number? He had to have known. I would like to think he knew. I can't prove it, though. But I think it's common sense, right? He's the general manager. He knew. If Jeannie came to me and said, I got 70 mil for 6 years, Rob, go close it. I'd be like, he ain't coming for 70 mil, honey. You could do 6 years, but you're going to need to put a 30 spot on there.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, are we really going to let him run things? Well, Rob, let me console with my puppies. Rough. What do you think the answer was?
Unfortunately, it was rough.
It's probably rough.
Yeah. It's so funny because in Dan Le Batard interview, he clearly intimates that there was a Godfather offer he wouldn't have refused, and the Lakers just didn't give it.
I wanted to leave enough meat on the bone to start getting into other details on this because it seems to be something of interest for the crowd. And I keep reading more and more articles. I just read a new article about how Dan Hurley and his wife had this secret text. I didn't read it because I think it's trash. It's tabloid garbage.
If it's a secret text, how do they know about it?
Exactly. That's why I didn't read it. I just saw it on Lakers Ball. I just skimmed through it. And what's beautiful about Lakers Ball and a message board is you don't need to read anything. You have your compadres there and your sisters that'll read or answer it, and you can decipher what was in the article. I don't have to click and give them a click to know what was going on. The fact that they're still clowning the Lakers, some lady that I don't even know that has nothing to do with this is clowning the Lakers.
Sean, I have a feeling that his contract is going to be renegotiated in Connecticut, or some of the things that he's been asking for assistant coaches and or facilities will be quickly upgraded. And we'll leave it at that. Yeah. I have a feeling, that now that, he intimated that, he said that was very strategic. He said what he said. He said he wasn't using the Lakers as a leverage play. He might have not been using the Lakers as a leverage play, Joe, but that interview with Le Batard he did yesterday, that sounded like a leverage play.
It's irrelevant if it's a leverage play or not.
Well, because it's all UConn deals now.
If you're a smart businessman, you're always thinking leverage in anything you do. Every customer, every client you talk to, you try to figure out where your leverage is. So it's like, hey, are you going to drink water when you're thirsty? Yeah, I'm going to drink water when I'm thirsty. Yeah, of course you're going to leverage in any negotiation anywhere. It's business. It's common sense. But where you could have sealed the deal is you offer 100 mil. Dan Hurley's the coach right now. And if you're not going to offer him 100, why are you having a negotiation? You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. Did Rob say to Jeannie, maybe this happened. Let's say Jeannie believed Rob. Let's say this happened. Let's scenario. Hypothetical. What if Rob's like, Jeannie, I'm going to convince him to take 70 mil. Don't worry about it. I got you. Okay. Didn't happen, right?
No, I think 7 for 100.
So now Jeannie's like, what the hell, dude? You just told me you were going to do this. What does Jeannie do now? I know what I would do if I was Genie. If my GM, who's been struggling his entire career here, dude, I gave you an extension last year to kind of like, hey, man, let's do this. I did you a favor. You do me a favor now. Now you're making me look like an idiot. You know that didn't happen, by the way. I'm just making this story here because we know if that would happen, it's likely Rob wouldn't be the GM.
It's just, again, you went all the effort to make him this out-of-the-box candidate, and you didn't give him an out-of-the-box offer.
So let's go to the last thing here on this subject. What if they actually thought that was a fair deal? If they actually thought that was and a fair deal is not a fair deal in regular life, folks. We're talking about the situation. What he was getting paid at UConn versus what they were going to pay him here to uproot his family from the other side of the country to this side of the country, to go from probably white picket fences, green grass, and daisies everywhere to graffiti, piss, and a couple of nice buildings every now and then.
And let me add this, Joe. Also, the 6 for $50 that Sean mentioned earlier that he's currently getting, aren't there also shoe deals, possible stuff, going on as far as how he's favored there with some of the boosters? I'm sure the boosters do what they can to keep him happy there because it is college. And like I said, shoe deals are pretty good there in Connecticut as far as it's concerned, right? A deal with Nike could net him another $2-3 million a year, you think? So it's not just the 6 for $50 that he's making. I'm sure he gets other residual incomes as well. Plus, again, the comfort factor. You're going from where you know and where you've been comfortable with for so long.
This was not about comfortable. Because if it was about comfort, he would have never put his name in this.
He wanted to hear what they had to say.
He said before any talk of being a Laker coach in the last few weeks, he said before that he could possibly think about coming to the NBA.
He was listening. He went to go listen to what they had to say.
Correct. And they failed. They failed miserably again.
He flew to Los Angeles. Why would you fly to Los Angeles if you weren't at least the least bit interested, Joe?
Yeah. So JJ Redick now is apparently the new head coach. I don't hear Shams or any of these clowns talking about it though. This time they learned their lesson, right?
Well, he said it on the like this earlier this week. That I told you, Joe. He said he was claiming on his show that he was the number one candidate all along, and which I think is a bunch of BS.
Sure.
But yeah.
Okay, so they're just waiting for the final stand.
Supposedly they'll be talking this weekend in LA. Suppose he's flying to LA before he flies over to Boston for Game 5.
They have no choice at this point. What are they going to do? They're not going to bring in James Borrego.
Kenny Atkinson's not those aren't sexy names. The Lakers are going to go for the name. Chris Quinn, Mikanori, Adelman.
Chris Quinn, no chance. None of these guys. So it's in terms of a name, unless there's a bigger name that pops up, like a Dan Hurley out of nowhere, you are likely going to see them hire the name because that's what the Lakers do. And it's great when it's Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, Gasol, Chris Paul, if you don't get vetoed. Yeah. But what happens when it's not working? What do you do then?
Yeah, Mark Jackson Hassan. Yeah, that's a self-imposed. He got himself into trouble in Golden State. They wanted him out. He was gone, even though he had a 50-win team. You got to ask yourself why that was. And I think amongst the players, the way he coached in Golden State, maybe he's learned some things since then, Joe. But yeah, same reason why Jeff Van Gundy. Why hasn't he gotten a second job? He seems to know a lot. He seems to
Stan has failed in more than one place.
No, not Stan.
Jeff's too out of touch for today's game.
Yeah. Okay. But the thing is, same thing with Mark. Why have those two guys who've been the lead announcers?
Well, Mark is a religious person.
Yeah.
Mark had some things to say about lifestyle stuff, and he's not gonna get hired by anybody because of that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm alluding to. But when Hassan brings it
Mark
up,
Jackson will never be a coach in the NBA, folks. It's over. He does not agree with certain things, and I don't think he cares.
So it looks like JJ is going to be again looking more and more like he's.
It has to be a bigger name than JJ for them to hire somebody else, somebody that we don't know about.
Yeah, another thing out of left field.
They're not gonna do all this and hire James Borrego. Sorry, I don't see that happening.
So something happened that was very interesting during the uninteresting game that happened just now in the NBA Finals, Game 4, was the appearance of Paul George and Joel Embiid. And this leads me to something that's just mentioned in the chat. Adrian says, did you hear about LeBron James going to Philadelphia 76ers? He will make a deal. We have talked about this before on the show, that 76ers will have 50 to 55 million in open cap space this summer if they do, if they play things right as far as not signing people, whatnot, before they go ahead and talk extension with Tyrese Maxey. LeBron James' name has come up, and if it goes south, LeBron James could exercise, he could get out of his option on his final year and decide he wants to go there. That's true. But Paul George being there, which was something you and I mentioned the other day about him being a good fit in Philadelphia. Interesting that he was there tonight with Joel Embiid. You don't take anything from it?
No.
Seeing how Paul George is going to be a free agent within 2 weeks?
If Paul George goes to Philly, it's a smart move, and it helps Philly. Yeah. And I say smart move for him. He's not winning in LA. Kawhi's dead. He's going to play he might play limited minutes, but he's done. He's dead. You're not winning a championship with Kawhi Leonard. He's not lasting an entire season. And the Clippers, I think, have the second largest payroll. I think over 200 mil. No, if I'm Paul George, I take a deal in Philly, and you have a much better shot at winning a championship there, and you lessen the pressure for Maxey, and you definitely allow the Sixers not to run Embiid too hard next year.
But what about LeBron? If he decides,
LeBron's not going anywhere.
You think he'll take a three?
He can barely handle just the slightest criticism. You imagine a Philly media on that guy? He will wither away. Hell no.
They did throw snowballs at Santa as far as
oh my God, no way he'll ever play in Philly. If he didn't play in New York, he'll never play in Philly. Hell no.
All right.
No. LeBron's not going anywhere. He's going to retire a Laker, likely, or if something happens in a couple of years and he can go play with his kid on a minimum contract in Siberia somewhere in the NBA, wherever that is, Charlotte, Minnesota, I don't know, whatever, maybe. But the likelihood is.
You think he's going to do a 2+1?
I think if I'm him, I'd just do a 3.
I would do a 2+1. With an option.
What's the +1 for?
The option, like you said, if he wants to
He's not going to turn down that last year contract, regardless.
Okay, not even to go play with the Sun.
I don't think he's going to sacrifice $60 million to play anywhere other than where he's going to play to make $60 million.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not going to turn down $60 million to go play.
Now he could make $50 million, 3 for 150 or ish or abouts in Philadelphia if he decides to go there to play with Embiid or PG. So
yeah, sure.
Ray Joe, it's not LeBron haters. They're not LeBron haters. It's just the fact he is approaching 40, and it just we're looking at a sense that it's not LeBron hate or anything like that, because it's just you have any player, star player, otherwise, who doesn't give you 82 games. And Ray Joe, I know you admit this. You'll admit this too, that LeBron just can't give you 82 games of LeBron like he once did. And you're still building teams like Rob Pelinka has been for 4 years now since they won the title in the same vein, thinking that you're going to have a LeBron that's a 30-year-old LeBron, prime LeBron, playing like that consistently on both ends of the floor for 82 games a year. And it just doesn't work anymore because he can't do it. And it's not his fault. We're not trying to hate on him. It's just the fact that it's just the law of averages and father time. And the fact that he could literally walk out of his deal for the final year, Rachel, and sign and commit to a 3-year, $160 million deal where you're paying him $60 million in the final year of his contract, approaching age 42, is of concern to a lot of players, to a lot of fans out there, Joe. It's a concern to us. What kind of 42-year-old will LeBron be on the court? And you got to ask yourself, and you're paying him $60 million. So it's no disrespect to you, Ray Joe, but it's not a bunch of LeBron haters. It's just guys that are just, and gals that are just concerned that if you commit that kind of money to that old of a player, you're not going to get the return on your investment. Would that be a fair and concise way of saying that, Joe, or not?
Let me answer something on one of the comments.
What's up, Sean? Get over here, man.
Let's see here. Where was it? Kareem didn't play 82 games. All right, folks. Let me look back at Kareem's stats. Kareem's stats for 20 years in terms of games played. 82, 82, 81, 76, 81, 65, 82, 82, 62, 80, 82, 80, 76, 79, 80, 79, 79, 78, 80, 74.
But those last years, statistically, those, especially those final 2 years of Kareem's deal when he's in his early 40s, I think at that time, was it 14 and 7 points respectively in those 2 years?
Well, he had relinquished his number one option.
Yeah.
And he was 4 games away from going on at a three-peat if Magic Johnson and Byron Scott don't blow out their hamstrings.
And Sean, when you say he was a third-team All-NBA, yeah, he was this year, absolutely. But can you tell me he played efficiently at both ends of the floor for 82
It's irrelevant how good LeBron plays, folks. Can he produce a championship?
Is he still at that level?
As a lead? The answer is no. We have to focus. I want everyone to focus on the fact, forget about your feelings right now. I want you to focus on the reality of what the Lakers can do with this roster. Meaning, can LeBron be a number one player and still win championships? You've seen for the last 2 years, the answer is no. And it's not going to get better the older he gets. So unless you get him reinforcements or you bring in a coach that can utilize Anthony Davis better on offense, you have no shot. Zero shot. Because Rui's not going to help. Austin's not going to help. D'Angelo's not going to help in that department. Those guys are role players. So now what? Are we still going to talk about how great LeBron was in 2013? Because I kept hearing that with the Russell Westbrook thing from all the media deadheads. Well, this is a future Hall of Famer. Well, this is a guy that averaged triple-double for 3. I'm not talking about 2017 Westbrook. I'm talking about 2022 Westbrook. Mm-hmm. And he stunk. I'm talking about LeBron James, who's going to turn 40, who's already shown he cannot carry a team on his back to win a championship. So what are you going to do now? Your reward for LeBron James is to max him out now. How is that a smart business move? What is your job? To make money by having LeBron on your team? All right. Why are we watching? Is this the Bulls? Is this Charlotte? Is this Orlando? I'm not watching the Lakers so that I can watch a play-in or one round in the first round. I don't want to invest 82 games a year for a 5-game romp.
He's not comparing Westbrook to LeBron, Sean. He's just giving you an example of what a player once was to what they are now. LeBron is not the same player at 39 that he was at 30. Even you would admit that. And the fact is that Rob still plans this team around a player that no longer exists, or that LeBron can give you on an 82 games plus playoff basis anymore. He can give it to you in moments, but he just can't give it to you every single time in order to get us out of a 7th place in the Western Conference status. And that's what I think is the key here. LeBron and AD as a duo, as a championship duo, I just don't think can give you what everybody wants, which is a championship anymore. I just don't think they're a championship duo anymore.
It's not think, they're not.
Well, there are still supporters.
They need 2 money players on this team with their depth. Can they do that? And pay LeBron? And pay D'Angelo? Or can they turn D'Angelo into 2 of those players with some draft capital?
But Ray Joe has a point. We can't tank either, Joe, because the fact
there's no pick next year.
Yeah, there's no pick.
Yeah.
So
they're not going to tank with Anthony Davis and LeBron on the team anyways.
Hard place. But we're not a championship team either.
So then what are we doing here? What are the Lakers doing? I should say we. I don't want to say we with these people.
Well, again, Sean, it goes back to this. Sean Harder. It goes back to this. Yes, look at his shooting. I've been saying it. You've heard me on the show.
No, son. No, actually, we don't need shooters. We had 3 guys that shot over 40% this year.
Exactly.
One broke the Laker record.
Exactly.
We had health and shooters this year, and we still sucked. That's how bad Darvin Ham was as a coach, by the way, too.
And that's how bad the talent around our shooters was.
No big that could do anything. No one off the bench. And the ones that were coming off the bench were a massive liability. Either they were injured the whole year or they didn't do anything.
Believe me, it hurts for me to say this because I consider LeBron James one of the greatest players of all time. I consider Kareem, Roy was talking about Kareem, one of the greatest players. He is the greatest college player of all time, in my opinion. So, Kareem. Is there a better college player or more successful college player?
No.
Yeah. He's one of the greatest.
Maybe Bill Walton, but that's it.
Yeah. You could argue about that one backward, but when you're talking, that's the elite of the elite. And Kareem is one of the greatest players of all time. LeBron is one of the greatest players. It doesn't fill me with gladness to talk about LeBron in this way, but again, committing him to 3 years, 160. Do you think he's going to make less? Do you think, Sean, do you actually think he will take less of an offer this summer? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I know Sean invited you on the show, and you're more than welcome to anytime. Just hit me up, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. But do you really think he will give the Lakers a discount?
Well, will it matter if he does? Will they be able to use that money for something else?
Good point, because we'll be over the cap.
Right.
Especially if we go after D'Lo.
The answer is no. Where it plays a factor is in the apron area.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, Joe didn't forget the in-app coach. He mentioned the in-app coach. You mentioned Darvin Ham and all this.
Darvin Ham was the worst Laker coach I've ever seen. And I say that because he actually had 2 stars on his team, and he still was bad. Guys like Luke Walton, guys like Byron Scott, guys like Rui Tomjanovich halfway through the 2005 season. Those guys didn't really have expectations or any kind of path to going and winning a championship.
Now, if LeBron made a sacrifice for the Lakers, gave them a discount, allowed the Lakers to bring in a 2 or 3 guy, like maybe a Mitchell, I'm just using him as an example, everyone out there, just a Mitchell, and then be able to put a couple more pieces around that and had LeBron as your number 3, you wouldn't need him as much. So that would be a great scenario, but I just don't see LeBron saying, you know what, we're going to get Mitchell in here, or we're going to get star player in here.
How are you going to get Mitchell in here?
No, I'm just using him as an example, or just I'm another player that is really going to change the dynamic of the team, that would allow LeBron to play as a number 3, that he doesn't have to do everything that's needed every night. Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Even if you bring in somebody like that, he's still not going to play number 3. That's why it's important to cut the fat.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's
and I want to be proven wrong in this situation, but I doubt it.
No, yeah, there's the Lakers are likely going to hire JJ Redick unless there's a surprise bigger name that comes out of nowhere again. And then you have LeBron that's going to sign his extension. And then I would say, based off the history of this team, they're probably going to lose D'Angelo for nothing.
BD, you're so funny. He did not call LeBron. He said, cut the fat, as in, you know what he was talking about. He's just BD on Twitch. Big shout out to you, my friend. But yeah, it's just, again, it's not a great situation we're in. But again, we can't tank. So Stone and my argument and whatnot, that all goes away because we don't even have our pick next year. So, Roy, that's a good question. I would love to see Rondo. Well, I love to see Rondo as the coach personally. I've been advocating him for years, but he won't be coached with his checkered legal history. But maybe as assistant, maybe give him the shot there. Who would you like to see as assistants if JJ is hired?
Couldn't give 2 hoots.
See, he doesn't care ever about
assistant coaches. They're drapes in a house. They're just dressing. That's it. That's all it is.
So you wouldn't care about them not hiring an experienced coach to back him up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I couldn't care less. Assistant coaches mean nothing to me.
Okay. Roy, I'm not sure if that's the answer that you wanted to hear.
What is an assistant coach going to tell someone who's making $60 million a year while they're making $600,000 a year? Look how they treated Phil Handy, and he actually had rapport. He actually had an image as a good leader,
a good player development guy.
Maybe,
yeah,
sort of.
He had a rep. I didn't say
he had a rep, but this is basketball. You're either good or you're not. There are some that will get better because they work hard, but that's a decision that the basketball player needs to make. I don't think anybody at this level is in need of somebody assisting them, really.
Now, this is an interesting thing because Ray Joe looks like he's on the surface. He's a big-time LeBron James supporter. More power to you if you are. Again, for me, I said LeBron James, one of the greatest players of all time. If you were to design the perfect basketball player in a lab, he would a lot of the attributes.
I picked Michael Jordan.
For me, I would put it more towards LeBron James. But I didn't say it myself. I would still say, from what I've seen on the court, Michael Jordan to me is a little bit better as far as it goes. But let me say this before you say anything, Joe. He said 45,000 points GOAT. He'll be the all-time scoring leader. He'll have 45,000 points, Ray Joe, but that 4-6 record in the finals, as opposed to 6-0, I believe it is for Michael Jordan. That's always going to be stacked against him, Joe. I mean, you said you're in the results business. You can't get any better than undefeated.
Yeah. I think I've had this discussion long enough in my life.
Yeah. I hear you.
I don't care.
I do want to touch it, but Ray Joe's a new audience member, so new face.
If you're going to pay attention to scores and assists, then maybe you should just read box scores instead of watching the games. The Celtics are one win away from putting one more notch above the Lakers again in titles, and a lot of that is because management and ownership don't know how to build a team. And
and
LeBron
the argument's
and
rated.
LeBron doesn't know how to embrace any coaches that he's ever had.
I mean, in the chat, it's back and forth, and again, that's going to be continual debate forever.
I already got into a discussion about this a few weeks ago on another program, and I'm done with it. Especially considering most of the people that are arguing this weren't even coherent enough to know what was going on in the 90s. If you didn't watch Michael Jordan play, then you have no argument. You shouldn't discuss an argument. You're not. I saw Michael Jordan in his prime, Kobe and LeBron. Saw them.
They didn't come up with the LeBron rules, Joe. They came up with the Jordan.
Everybody had rules.
Yeah, the Jordan rules.
The rules the last 15 years has been catered to everything LeBron, but Dwayne Wade.
I'm talking about the unwritten rules during that period of time on how to defend Michael Jordan, and that included a lot of maybe below the belt play and things of that nature. So that's why I'm saying Jordan rules. I'm just saying that's how good he was. He commanded a certain presence that I've never seen duplicated, not even by LeBron. As much as I have respect for LeBron being one of the greatest of all time, he's Michael Jordan. And again, we're just going to tail off into that. That's going to take another hour, and you guys are all over the place as far as your opinions on it, but it's just good. It's nice. Discord. Let's keep it civil. But Joe, again, let's get it back to the Lakers and what a question that was made during the playback was, will the Lakers hire a coach before the draft? I think it's a no-brainer that you should. I think it's kind of ill-sighted if you don't. But then again, this is the Lakers, so nothing is out the realm of possibility.
The finals are going to, at the very least, last until Thursday?
Monday. Next game is Monday.
I know, but let's say it goes 7.
Okay.
What is that? Thursday? No.
Yeah.
Friday?
I think it goes Monday. Does it go Wednesday, Friday? I'm going to look it up. I'll look it up right now.
Okay. So let's say by this time next week, right? And the draft is what, the 25th?
26th. We're going to do our mock draft on the 25th, just to let everyone know.
I would say the Lakers are going to hire their new coach in between the last finals game and the draft.
You're right. It is Monday, Thursday next week. Monday, Thursday, Sunday. Good God, that's meant. All right. It's a lot of days off.
That would work for Dallas should they win Monday, because Boston would have to sit for 2 days
thinking about it
before they have to go back to Dallas. And if Dallas beats them Thursday, they will press on Sunday. So Dallas right now has to look at Monday as the championship game, as a game 7, because Boston's going to come out guns a-blazing.
Eric has a great question, something we've touched on before, but I don't mind touching on it again. We were pondering it as far as moving up in the draft. We had a great conversation with Alfred Esmond from Orlando Magic Daily. He's going to be part of our coverage as far as our mock draft the day before the draft. I'm really thankful for it. And when he was providing his mock draft, you and I discussed the possibility of moving up to as far as number 3 in the draft. I think Houston, people should need to keep an eye on Houston. I think Atlanta is keeping its pick. I think Detroit is keeping its pick. But Houston, they're a team that's got nothing to lose. They're 500. They're already playing at a level that they could be a playoff contender next season. Your thoughts on what the Lakers could offer that might interest Houston to get a lot higher in the draft?
What the Lakers can offer?
Yes. What do you think the Lakers would get the Houston to at least not hang up the phone on them?
Unprotected, 3 unprotected first-round picks?
No, just to move up to number 3.
There's no way.
So 17 and Rui, or 17.
They'd have to give up the 17 and the other 2 first that they're going to get when the season ends unprotected.
Just to move up 14 spots in a weak draft.
Yes.
Okay. How about Rui and 17? How far could you go up to that? 12? Then maybe? But you just said yourself earlier in weeks ahead that the Lakers would try to move up in the draft.
They would, but they're going to fail.
Okay.
Just like they failed last year in trying to get Derek Lively, allegedly.
Okay. Which in hindsight would have been really good if they did.
Mm-hmm.
But
that was only 5 spots too, in an area where you didn't have to, too. You could have gotten some talent, but we've talked about that enough.
That we have. That's what happens when you're on 300 days a year. You do talk about these things a lot, but it's always great to have everyone here. Ray Joe is in that Zach Edey camp. I mean, Zach Edey has endeared himself to a lot of people out there, not me, enough that to be that high. I still think he's the guy that you may want to try to understand at 7'5", 300 pounds. His mobility is in question. You're always committing to a drop coverage if he's in the game. Your transition defense is going to be iffy. You have to cater to a certain style of offense and defense if you decide to draft him. I can understand drafting him. I'm just saying you have to commit to it. Your thoughts on Zach Edey?
I like Zach Edey at 55, but not at 17. He's either a late first or second round pick. He's a dinosaur in a human world. He's an extinct animal. He will get, if you think Rudy Gobert is bad, Zach Edey would be a liability and a half.
Same thing with Klingon to an extent. Klingon's not much faster or speed-wise, athletic-wise than Zach Edey. They tested out somewhat surprisingly similar.
What have you heard the differences? I want to see if it's the same of what I heard.
It's minimal as far as their speed tests, as far as their back, the tests that they run at the combine, the actual speed.
I'm talking about gameplay.
About gameplay? Mm-hmm. Well, the difference for Klingon over Edey, and the reason why Edey was, at this time, at the start of the season, at the college season, he was still a late second rounder at best, was because of his lack of mobility. Now, his mobility has improved because he has lost a lot of weight, but he's still closing to 300. Donovan Klingon is a little bit more agile, but still there's going to be issues about him with drop coverage and things of that nature. But he seems a little bit more fluid, but a little bit better passer. Plus, he may be able to stretch it out a little bit more than Zach Edey. It's still yet to be determined because both took and made a decent amount of shots at the combine, not guarded on their threes. So we'll see. Again, I see them as very similar players right now that could evolve differently. But I just think that that right now Klingon has been thought of as high as number 2. I've seen him in mock drafts, where Zach Edey, he's been rising up the charts, but I just don't see him as a great fit for the Lakers.
Klingon has a much more workable jump shot, number 1, and he is a better wall than Edey.
He has better defense. He has rim protection.
If you assign Klingon on Embiid, you have a better shot at him containing Embiid than you would Edey. And like Stone said about the player that doesn't initially come out the gate, they have a certain skill set that can likely develop into a better shooter, into a better passer, into a better basketball player. Klingon has a much better outlook down the road in terms of his skill set. I think his jump shot will look better.
Yeah,
his jump shot can get better if he puts in the work. He has the mechanical skills for that to happen. His defense will be better, in my view, than Edey. So if he can develop a consistent jump shot and can guard big players like Jokic and Embiid, because that's something we don't talk a lot about in this widespread business, right? Who have been the MVPs the last 4 seasons? 4 bigs. 3 is one guy, but the bigs are back, folks. The bigs are winning the most valuable player awards. So what do you do in a draft that's weak? You try to find the big that can actually help you contain the Jokic's and the Embiid's.
Edie is much better low post option, but the problem is who plays low post anymore in 5-out offenses,
This
right?
is not about, look, if you're thinking that you're going to get this and then you're going to do this and do a couple of foot things and then bank it off the backboard, then you guys are living in 2004. When I'm talking about Klingon versus Edie, I'm talking about those two things I said about Klingon is stuff that you have to do in the NBA right now.
You say he has a better feel for the pro game.
He has a better outlook in where the efficiency and skill set needs to be for a player his size. He needs to shoot at some point in his career, and he has shown that he has that ability should he work on it. And the other is he is a better defender. He is better at getting into the guy he's playing against. So Embiid, Jokic, he is going to be able to stabilize that a little bit better than Edie. Well, I should say a little bit better. I think much better.
Now, Terrence Shannon, as I mentioned yesterday, he did get his rape charge annulled. He is found innocent of all charges. And well, congratulations to him. I think he does rise up draft boards. He was someone that was a top 7 talent at what time before all the stuff went down, but he has now been proven innocent. Joe, you said if he's there for the Lakers, they won't touch him because of those issues that seemingly are not anymore a problem.
Well, apparently Kevin Spacey was found innocent on 5 counts in, I don't know, what was it, England?
Yeah.
And apparently he's doing interviews, and every comment I see is, you made your bed. He was found innocent. So what does that mean? I don't see anybody hiring him.
Okay.
Is he innocent? I don't know. I wasn't there. But according to the courts, are you about the justice system or are you about what you feel happened? So that's the question you ask the GMs when they're drafting. Are you guys going to mess with this? Or are you going to follow the rule of the law?
Yeah, Sean, he has admitted he's bankrupt, I guess, after all of his legal proceedings. But yeah, I think he is doing some finally some film work. I think he is actually getting back into acting and whatnot. But yeah, Xbox, a little bit of both. Filipowski, solid big man, but
if he's there at 17 and you feel like he's got something, it's not a bad pick.
He's solid. But does that solid mean backup, or does that solid mean someone that can actually?
I'll take a backup big right now.
Okay.
We need a backup big. We do. Definitely. Klingon as Tyson Chandler defensively. I would need to see that one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen enough of that yet.
The best of Tyson Chandler, I don't know.
I mean, I guess if Sean says it, he knows.
I've yet to see that from Klingon yet. I think Klingon can be good.
If that's the potential, then that's why he's being picked higher than Edie then.
But you see in our chat, Joe, that Edie is they just are enamored with the size. They don't care.
They're enamored because
he's 7'5",
because Sports Center told them that's why.
Yeah, 7'5", 300 pounds.
Don't get Jahlil Okafor, guys. We've already done that. Be careful.
I think if Ron Holland is somewhere in that 11, 12, 13 range, the Lakers should make an effort to try and move up.
They probably don't even know who Ron Holland is.
Didn't know who Cam Whitmore was.
He's not a Big Ten player, so why would he?
Didn't know who Triple J was, and he played right down the street. So,
well, they knew Maxwell Lewis. He was in Pepperdine, wasn't he?
Yep. How'd that work out for us? How'd that
every time he took a jump shot, it looked like I was watching the WNBA.
How do you go not 1, not 2, but 3 games of 0 in Summer League? It's Summer League. didn't that clue you all in
Where
about
was
Maxwell
Phil
Lewis?
Handy and the mechanics and stuff with that, by the way?
But I couldn't. All throughout that season, Joe, I
Where
heard
was the assistant coaches there?
Maxwell Lewis. He has promise, Gerald. He has promise. He has potential. He has potential. And I'm like, where is it? He's not showing it on an NBA court. Oh, in the G League. JHS is killing it in the G League. As I think, Joe, you shouted one time, really, it's the G League. I think you added an expletive to it too. But yeah, it's the G League. So again, there's a big step between the G League and the NBA to some of these players. So I don't know. I don't have much faith in Ron Pelinka right now. Max Christie, Joe and Stone have been on the record saying he's not an NBA player. I still think he could be someday in the league, maybe an NBA rotational player. Probably not on the Lakers, like several other rotation players in the league start out with the Lakers and are no longer there. But wait and see. He is going to probably be retained, Joe, because I think that's a $2.5 million buy-in for to retain him as a restricted. So yeah. Ison says, "Hey Joe and Gerald, I feel the Lakers still are going to hire a coach when the draft is done after the playoffs." That's not smart.
I don't think they're going to do that.
Pale Fox. I won't repeat what you just said, but yeah. Bag of Dragon. Okay, the 7'4", 14-year-old Chinese basketball player Zhang Zhu. Well, I can't draft him just yet.
Never heard of him.
Maybe he will. Maybe he'll become the next Yao Ming.
If he's the next Yao Ming, the Lakers are going to have to tank before they have a shot at getting in the lottery to win the lottery to get him.
Easy, that is a good question. Is Hood Schifino going to be playing in the Summer League? Remember, he did have back surgery. So it all depends on if he's okay. You'll see his name on the roster, but I don't know if he will play it. Again, back issues are back issues. So when somebody at 19 is already having a back surgery, Joe, that's bad. That's not good. The kid's 19 and having back surgery already. From what? Sitting down on the bench too long?
He works hard, though.
He works hard. Oh, it is a girl, BD? Okay. I've not seen that player as yet. So, but it is, of course, the Lakers fast break. Truly appreciate you joining us once again. The Dallas Mavericks did blow out the Boston Celtics 3-1, headed back to Boston for Game 5 on Monday. So you've got a free weekend for JJ Redick to come here to Los Angeles to go ahead and speak to the Lakers, which apparently he's going to do according to reports. So we'll see what happens there. I know, and Michael, I know, MPJ, Joel Embiid, they both had back issues, but has Joel Embiid been a healthy player throughout his career?
I didn't think he was going to make it after the first 2 seasons, but he's been relatively serviceable.
He hasn't played, though. Getting him to play 65 games is hard for him, though.
Right. But
and Pale says MPJ had 3 back surgeries by 19. Okay. All right. They're young, hopefully bounce back. But did you like the product that was out there on the floor when JHS was out there? Did you see any glimpses of anything in him?
I saw someone who was ridiculously scared.
Couldn't shoot, couldn't defend.
Couldn't shoot, couldn't defend, couldn't get to the basket, couldn't dribble. I really don't know what the hell happened there. It was like they drafted Jordan Hill of guards.
Yeah. Again, I need to see something out of him. I need to be proven wrong. And if we're remember, when Joe and I are proven wrong about these things, it only benefits the Lakers. So we're all for it if that's the case. Oscar Vargas, welcome, Oscar.
How are you going to prove us wrong? It's in the tape.
Yeah.
I'm
If
not,
JHS
I'm not
becomes a
sitting here
player.
trying to dog on some 19-year-old. The guy stinks. It's because of what you're watching, not because I want to say somebody stinks. And Max Christie stinks too.
Oscar says, you guys talk about Jake Fisher hearing the Lakers trading up in the draft to snag Devin Carter. No, we haven't. But who would they trade to get moved up in the draft to draft Devin Carter? What that would be again around 12, 13, something like that. So you need something that people want.
If the Lakers are going to trade draft capital, they better get a player that can play ASAP, not move up in a draft that's weak. Even if they do go get a Holland or a Carter, they still have to wait for those guys to develop. And the Lakers don't have time for that.
Yeah. That was why the JHS pick in and of itself was so puzzling, Joe, and the Maxwell Lewis. It was just so puzzling because
Maxwell Lewis is a second-round pick. I don't really put too much stock in that. That's a crapshoot in the second round. But the first round in the teens, and for a team that needs desperately rotation players at a cost-effective setup, you absolutely needed a hit last year. And so many teams hit on that pick when they could have. But also, it could have been the inability of the coach to develop these players.
Okay.
Podziemski, is that how you say it?
Podziemski.
Yeah. Triple J from Miami. Do those guys perform as well if they're in LA with this deadhead coach versus Spoelstra, who's arguably the best coach?
I went back and forth with people.
And Steve Kerr is arguably the second best coach in the NBA.
People say that those guys would not have played well under Darvin Ham, and the way Darvin Ham utilized,
and you know what?
They would have gotten that.
I'm not even on that bandwagon.
Cam Whitmore, of course.
That is a 2020 decision. It's easy to say, oh, they should have picked these guys. I didn't know anything about those two guys, really. We did know about Cam Whitmore, though. And we saw how he performed. And he was somebody that Lakers could have definitely used. So regardless, it's just you have to pick the best player available at that in the NBA. You cannot ever go beyond that philosophy. And Jalen Hood-Schifino should have been a late second-round pick, let alone a 17th pick. And that's putting it nicely. Right now, he looks like a guy that should have been undrafted.
Even Trace Jackson Davis. I know that Joe doesn't take stock of second rounders as far as it's a crapshoot, but Trace Jackson Davis proved to be a rotation player in this league.
I put stock in the second round, but I don't sit there and go, oh, you should have picked this guy after the fact. Mm-hmm. Second round picks are hard to pick. They're hard to gauge.
Here we go back to Eric's question on Topic, because Nikola Topic, he's going to drop. As we talked about Terrence Shannon, that's going to be rising now that he's been acquitted of all charges. Topic is probably going to move down a little bit, if not more, because of his knee.
I wouldn't be mad if they picked him.
Stone might. Because Stone, I don't think, has the greatest opinion of him in the world, but I understand where he's projected right now. I've seen game film of him, not just highlights, but game film of him. I like his court vision. I think he, in many ways, healthy, could have been the player that we, or at least Rob, assumed that JHS would be. But if Eric, if he does draft, as I mentioned this yesterday, if he does draft Topic or a point guard, that tells me he knows that JHS is a failure. Because you don't end up drafting the same position 2 years in a row. Stone is, remember, on the East Coast, cool bro, and he will be hopefully with us one more time. But we're also planning a mock draft on the 25th. Don't know the time yet, but we're going to try and do one that hopefully get a lot of people involved for that. So he said he's going to try and commit to that. If you want to go take a look, Sean, at his Twitter at report_court, he has talked about Shannon. Oh, that's right. He wasn't talking about Shannon because of his pending case. So maybe now that's removed, a lot of things have cleared up about it. But I do know he did talk about, and he and the guys from Upside Swings talked about Terrence Shannon on the Upside Swings NBA Draft podcast. He had to go ahead and speak about him there. So if you want to hear thoughts on Terrence Shannon Jr., you would probably have to go there first, would be my guess. And giving him a cheap plug, but it is the Upside Swings NBA Draft podcast if you get a chance to check it out. JSJ, he's doing good. He's all right now. He's not done anything yet to piss us off. So not yet anyways. But my friend, an hour 20. I think we've done a good job so far, but heading into the weekend, next show for us is tomorrow at noon. I've already scheduled it. If you're on YouTube watching, you already see it right there for you. It is the Lakerholics crew. Michael Heinrich, Laker Tom, the guy who himself says JJ Redick is a future legacy head coach. And I will leave it at that. L. Rob and Jamie Sweet are going to be there too. Your thoughts whenever you see that on Laker Tom's. I mean, you said already comments back to him on this future legacy part with JJ Redick, but I just don't understand why Laker Tom keeps on putting himself out there like that.
Stop smoking dope.
Yikin still says 75% chance Lakers draft Bronny. At 55, I would say there's a
stop smoking dope.
Number
Guys,
55.
Drugs are bad. Pills, weed, coke, meth, heroin. Don't do it. It's not good. Makes you dumb. You don't see me doing drugs, do you? Look how happy I am.
You look thrilled right now. Yeah, it says ketamine. Sean says hippie lettuce.
I use that too sometimes.
Kubro says Joe's happy. And Joe can be happy from time to time. Yes, he can. Off the pod, he's actually a lot happier. He has said to such. Ison says no vodka.
Yeah, you can look at alcohol as a drug, just like coffee. But I'm speaking narcotics, not stimulants.
Well, my friend, it's been great conversation as always, and I think the well has run a little bit dry for tonight's conversation, unless you guys really have something that we could point out there. But before we head on out, my friend, I think that our next show together, maybe Sunday night, since the guys got it down pat for tomorrow.
We'll have to see.
Okay. We will have to
see. It would have been nice to have an NBA game on a Sunday, but apparently Adam Silver didn't think so.
No, wants that Monday night football slot. So.
Okay.
Remember when it was like you could get a finals game Sundays at 12:30?
Remember when wrestling was beating Monday Night Football?
That was a long time ago. You're right.
Crazy, huh?
Yep. And now you get what killed WCW on Vice.
For the 10th time? How many times are we going to hear this story?
Exactly. Just blame everybody. Just like the Lakers right now. Blame everyone.
Why does any wrestling organization fail? Whether it's the AWA, WCCW, Crockett, Hurd, Schiavone, Hogan, Nash, Hall. When? What happens usually? USWA, what? And a lot of these didn't fail. They just were merged together, right?
A lot of them failed.
Mhm.
Could say that. A lot
There
of
you
them
go. I was
failed.
trying to be nice. So that
No, I'll say a lot of them failed. Yeah.
good.
I mean, especially in WCW's part, where you were at one time
It's
garnering 8 million viewers.
They failed for the same reason why old owners like Art Modell failed. There's people like Jeannie Buss who don't belong running organizations. She's like an old wrestling promoter in a new wave future wrestling world.
She does own a wrestling company.
Maybe she should go do that full time.
It's not a very good one. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, you have to understand, guys, wrestling is a diva sport. You have guys that are shaving their legs and arms and chest and tanning and oiling up, and they're circus acts. And a lot of them are on stimulants and narcotics, and egos are built because there's a tension there. It's basically a circus version of Hollywood. And
I enjoy it. I'm sorry.
I used to enjoy it. But the problem is the leadership. As great as Bret Hart was, he's a whining baby still to this day.
Oh yeah.
And no one seems to tell him that you need to stop whining. It's the only people that say it are usually people on chat rooms. I think somebody needs to finally stand up and tell him to his face in public, stop whining. You're Bret the Hitman Hart. You're the excellence of execution. You had an amazing career. Stop whining about stuff that happened 20 years ago. Draws. What was it? Draws. He's dead. D'Lo accidentally broke his neck.
And he was in a wheelchair. Yeah.
He was in a wheelchair, and that guy still lived positive. God rest his soul. He ended up dying not too long ago.
It was because of complications.
Yeah, exactly. He forgave D'Lo, and he was a vegetable practically. You can't forgive Bill Goldberg for the kick you knew was coming. Like, get over it already. Like, you got to, a lot of these guys didn't look at no one took pride in most people don't take pride in business. They think about the money, right? That's usually how it is. Mm-hmm. So that's the result. I think it's a selfish business. It is what it is.
Cool, bro. I can tell you kind of in the ring, he's one of those individuals that has taken to pro wrestling quite well, and I compliment him on it. Outside the ring, I could absolutely care less what he does. I have no interest in Logan Paul outside the pro wrestling ring. So, sorry. I don't think that's probably what the answer you were looking for, but yeah, he's pretty much worthless outside of the WWE ring for me. So, but he's a pretty good heel in WWE. So there you go. Bag of Dragon says, if there's a difference from a random body slam freak accident and someone being unsafe for the kick, because it was you can go into detail. There's errors. There's, when it comes right down to it, errors, whether it's one side or another. When Owen Hart broke Steve Austin's neck because he had his head too low doing a pile driver. Yep, there's many times that these incidents happen when it goes wrong and it goes awry. And the injuries are real when they happen. Sometimes they're worked injuries. Yeah, they're worked injuries, of course. That's storyline and whatnot. But there are also real injuries in the professional wrestling ring because of just the stuff that they do. But I like it. It's for me. So, and I talk about it once a month on Pop Culture Cosmos. So, Yikin says They Live is a great movie. Yes, it is. And I'm all out of bubblegum. Roddy Piper's best performance ever. It's a little slow on the pacing, especially in the first part. But once he puts those sunglasses on, dang, the movie gets really good from there. And one of the best fight scenes, hand-to-hand fist fight scenes that's ever been choreographed. And one of the longest too. So, yeah.
Props to Keith David.
Yeah, Logan Paul. I could care less about his podcast. Couldn't care less. It's like nothing to me. So again, he's a good heel inside the ring, and that's all I see him for. That's it. But once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is, of course, Joe Soro, the man indeed. Symblades. Symblades for the wine.com. Please, I've seen in recent times some bad lawns out there here in Las Vegas. And I'm sure there's some bad lawns around Temecula and Southern California as well. And if you need help with your lawn, getting it to really look good, you think I'm kidding. I pitch this all the time. Go to Symblades. I wouldn't be saying Symblades if I didn't believe in it. I did think that, man, that looks pretty damn good. You go to Symblades.com, you're going to be saying, damn, that looks pretty damn good.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah.
We don't pride ourselves in doing bad work.
Oh no. Cool, bro. I know you live off of bet. I'm telling you, Joe and I are right. Please get off the junk. There was only one short period of my time when I had 3 jobs that I needed Mountain Dew amp. It's the only time I've ever had Red Bull, Mountain Dew amp, any of those times. But that was a short period of time in my life. I quickly ended that because that stuff tastes gross and it just crashes you so hard. No, I've not tried Prime. I have no interest in Prime. Is there a number less than 0? I think that's the interest I have in Prime. Joe drinks alcohol. That's worse than Red Bull. NBA draft, Yikin, to be correct, is going to be new thing. It is on the 26th.
Was a great chat until Cool Bro opened this trap.
And the 27th.
Which is going to have to get shut here soon.
Yeah, Bag of Dragon. Just don't be chucking that stuff. That's just, man, it's like people talk about Coke, being able to put in your car engine. Yeah, that stuff is really bad for you. But yeah, I digress. It is a 2-day draft now. I don't know what they're going to do for entertainment on that second round draft, because the second round draft was always an afterthought. It was done in half an hour, seemingly, just behind the scenes. They weren't even keeping up to date on the draft choices. You could never keep up with it because they weren't showing on the screen, because they were always doing other interviews. Even ESPN didn't care about the second round as was taking place. So I don't know what their goal is by doing a second night, about how suddenly they have new interest in the second round. I'm assuming it's based off of Bronny James. In and around that, they're going to center a whole 2 hours on Bronny James, which is going to piss off Joe and myself. For a player, I know Stone might have him ranked in the top 60 now. I just don't see it. I honestly don't. And I don't think I will until I see it actually take place on NBA court, which I don't think it'll ever get to, because I just don't think he's that good. Oh, he'll be on an NBA court, but it's not because of sheer talent. So that's just my opinion. At 6'1", you're asking for a guy that doesn't play point guard to be a shooting guard that's going to defend players 6-7 inches taller than him. That's a tall ask. Who can't hit 3-pointers with any efficiency right now. So yeah, Jack, and it's going to be Bronny Day on the 27th. So we'll wait and see. Unless he gets picked by the Lakers at 17, which I think Joe and I will both walk off. In fact, right now, Joe, you said you would walk off the set if he gets drafted at 17. I think I will join you in that. I think Sean or Stone will have to take over, because I think I'll walk off the program if that happens. I think I'm done. I think I'll be done for the day if that happens. I'm not gonna say I'm done, because I'm a Lakers fan, true purple and gold. But my God, I think I'm done for the day. I just don't think it would be pretty if they select Bronny at 17. Cool, bro. I think Joe and I will probably just go off the air. Well, Sean will be here.
I'm done with watching the Lakers.
Yeah, I can't say that. I run the channel. I can't say that. I always tell people I run the channel. I run the channel. I run the channel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can. What is when do guys stop growing, Joe? Is it 21?
25. Sometimes.
25? Mm-hmm. Is it? I thought it was 21.
Normally, but there's guys that still grow in their mid-20s.
Okay, because he's about 20 years old right now, everyone. So
He can grow into an 8-foot tall tree. He can't play goddamn basketball. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think that's Sean. I think just as a gimmick, that's going to take place 55. I just don't think he's one of the top 60 players in this draft, but that's just me. But he will be picked at 55 because he cannot tolerate him and Clutch are not accepting any kind of two-way deal. So yeah, that's what Paul said. So Pale Fox says, I do hereby nominate the second day of the draft to be named Bronny Day from here on forward in NBA history. Might be right on that, Pale. But yeah, it's going to be a made for television event, first and second round over the course of 2 days. So Eric, would you be going higher or lower? I know that you're a great part of other broadcasts, including Laker Girl. Hey, Joe, you know Laker Girl. Why don't you get Laker Girl on the show? Give her some love.
I talk to her every couple of weeks.
I saw you on the show the other day.
She'll chime in a few times, but she has to monitor her health a little bit, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah, Eric. Okay, I would just say he's just not a draftable player, but that's just me. So yeah, but yeah, cool, bro. Yeah, I think so.
Cool, bro. It's nice. It was nice knowing you.
Cool, bro. Just
good luck on the next show.
Look on YouTube.
When I say on the next show, I mean good luck by yourself.
Yeah, Sean, that's a very good point. And a weak draft will set any second rounder mean anything. So that's an excellent point.
You're done. That's what is. You're done. So enjoy the last few minutes here before we sign off.
All right. And on that note, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Sorrell, myself. Thanks again for watching, listening. Truly appreciated. Do not forget tomorrow, Saturday, high noon. It's the Lakerholics, part of our weekend spotlight. They'll be discussing Laker Tom's legacy coaching candidate.
What's the second nomination, Pale Fox?
Yeah, what was I didn't understand that question. Can someone make my nomination?
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to whatever you guys are saying because anytime I hear Bronny James,
12 minutes to Cool Bro's bedtime. So
well, it's actually more like 2 minutes away from Cool Bro never being on the show again.
Now we're going out. We're burning out, Joe and I. You can see it on our faces. We're burning out. We want to give you guys always the best product that's out there.
I got burnt out when he started talking about Bronny James.
Yeah. See, yeah, that's just yeah. Okay.
It's exhausting listening to nonsense sometimes.
And this is stuff we keep on going over and over. We want to try and keep it fresh as possible, but if you guys want to hear more Bronny James, go ahead and suggest it tomorrow to the guys of Lakerholics crew, Jamie Sweet, Laker Tom, Michael Heinrich, and L. Rob. They'll be glad to hear 1 hour full of questions on Bronny James. So mean if I say that. But please go ahead and watch their show tomorrow. Please give them a chance. They really have some good conversations, and highly encourage you to stop by Lakerholics.com, even if just to mock Laker Tom's thought process. Yeah, but cool, bro. You're on edge, my friend. You're on the edge.
He already went over. It's over.
Yeah, we'll see. Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Sorrell. Me, Joe Glassford. Again, appreciate you watching, listening. We will be back. No, cool, bro. The answer is definitively no. Again, thanks so much again for watching, listening. We'll be back hopefully sometime this weekend. Recovering from all the news. I'm sure that's JJ Redick related, which we'll hear about ad nauseum. But go ahead and join the guys from the Lakerholics crew on Saturday, and maybe Joe and I will slip in sometime this weekend right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.